Apiculture. It has been making a big buzz across the world recently. That's because it's forecast to be a $10 billion industry within the next 3 years. And local bee farmers have big plans to get a slice of the pie. Local farmers are trying to reap the sweet benefits of this rapidly growing industry. Apiculture is the practice of managing honeybee colonies to obtain desired products such as honey, pollen, or even beeswax. And recently, the global demand for bee products, especially honey and propolis, is expanding due to increasing incentives for their consumption. So, to find out just how Barbados plans to profit from this billion-dollar industry, I decided to speak with the head of the Barbados Apiculture Association, Damien Hines. This led me to the Ministry of Agriculture at Graham Hall Christchurch. There, I also met with Ministry's resident beekeeper, Lynette Rudder, at her farm. So, first, what is the Barbados Apiculture Association all about?
As an association, we've been around for a few decades. We have gone through a bit of transformation. The members that are currently with us are vastly removed from what would have existed when we first started. We have about 54 members so far. Most of them would have joined us in 2019, so it is encouraging. We actually have we're recognizing a lot of our new members are actually females, which is another encouraging sign in terms of what we want to do for wider development in Barbados as far as agriculture is concerned. And we also have some new young members, right? Now, most of our members are new to beekeeping. They came to us as enthusiasts, people with an interest. Having been involved, they recognize the commercial importance that honey production could play to Barbados. And have begun, as I said, we would have trained in support with the Ministry of Agriculture, trained over 100 new beekeepers in 2019. A lot of them have been absorbed in the association. We have some that are still on their own, but the idea is to encourage people or to see how we could get people to play a greater role in the productivity, in the production of honey and beehive products, as we call them, right? To kind of scale up production and to get an industry going, right? So it's something we're quite very heartened by the fact that the association has grown, as I said, by more than 50% in the last year.
Damien also outlined which byproducts he believes should be explored, which will have good export potential.
We're talking about the idea is to develop an industry around raw products. So all of the products that we're going to be speaking about, the wax, the honey, the propolis, perhaps royal jelly may be a bit far as a stretch for us here in Barbados given the scale of our production. But we are looking, as again, we have potential given our tourist industry to develop tours and packages around beekeeping for tourists to think, given our experience, our country's experience with alternative medicinal practices and that type of work. There's the potential for us to offer apitocin therapy to treat rheumatoid arthritis and other chronic joint pains and so on. So there is massive room for, I would say exponential room for growth. The honey, wax being the main products that you would get from the hive based on the scale of production, perhaps would be the ones that we may move on first in terms of getting product development around and so on. But certainly the medicinal benefits of pollen, propolis cannot be denied, and we will have to look into those products as well. And again, given that our bees potentially, based on the environment that they're working, the mix of flora and so on that we have, could be producing would have unique characteristics. And it is for us now to try to drill down. And so how can we develop products based on these characteristics that would set us in a niche position to market our products throughout the world.
I tried to get a closer look at the farm, but it wasn't to be.
Sources for the bees are relatively low. So to maintain bees in these kind of conditions is important. Yeah.
As you can see, they were a little bit aggressive, so I was warned to stay back. Lynette explained what was the reason for the bees' strange behavior, given that her bees are usually pretty tame.
When you open a hive, it alters the temperature within the hive. So once I remove the cover, you realize it didn't just fly up. And because the wind is high, that would impact on their behavior as well.
Okay.
So, and I did not use smoke to calm them, because smoke inherently calms or masks the fact that someone is entering the hive, that when they receive smoke, as opposed to looking to forage. Because smoke tells them that the hive is in inherent danger, so we have to protect.
What could be a potentially big business here in Barbados is pollination services, which is quite popular in Europe.
That is not a service that we currently offer, but for the future, as we increase hive capacity, you would find that, because I do have persons currently asking about pollination services, but because our apiary cannot sustain that enterprise currently, but it is something that we would look towards for the future. And what I recognize is having bees here on the station. We recognize that crop yields are better within the last couple of years since we've been here, a year and a half or so. We've been having better crop yields in terms of, we have cotton currently in production right now, and the cotton yield is of optimum. We had sorrel planted last year, and we did have a very, very good yield. And where you had one crop, we had the crop regenerating itself. So after the first harvest, there was a second harvest as a result.
She says, however, there are many other employment opportunities.
With the mandate of trying to promote entrepreneurship, there are valuable cottage industries you could get into. And when you look at wax processing, for example, and persons getting involved in candle making, beauty products, we know that there was a youth entrepreneurship program that was run here at the ministry. And I remember there were several of the students who were involved in natural soaps, and honey was one of the products that they would have used to make soap bars. You can get other stuff, value-added products like lip balms, lotions. So there's a wide scope for honey and the honey products.
For Lynette, she says beekeeping wasn't quite what she had in mind as a career.
I had no idea I would be beekeeping at the ministry currently. I was working in the area of horticulture when my former chief agriculture, that is, officer, because he's now retired, he was the one responsible for the revitalization of the apiculture unit here at the ministry. And out of that, he came and he asked me if I would be interested in becoming the ministry's beekeeper, because the previous beekeeper had retired for some years prior, and I readily accept. Had no prior experience, and I remember after saying yes to him, I was off to the opening ceremony towards my training. So it was like almost an immediate response. And after I would have been trained, I then took up the post about 6 months later, because this was the November 2017, and by the May of 2018, I became the beekeeper here at the ministry.
Earlier this year, representative of the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture, Enya Harvey, said that Barbados imports over 2/3 of the honey-based products which are imported regionally. Damien says this level of importation is too high, and they want the country to cut back soon.
Preliminary evidence suggests that we produce less than 5%, maybe less than 2% of the honey produced in Barbados. So which means that 95 to 98% of it is being imported, right? What we are attempting, you mentioned 5 years, if we can double our output in 5 years, so as you say, go from 2 or 5% to 4 or 10% of production, where we as I said, we then reduce our input. That perhaps may be a realistic first step for the next 5 years. Recognizing, of course, when you establish a hive, it would take perhaps at least a year down the road before you can start to market any product, before you could extract honey, wax, or anything, because the bees need to build up and do their work first, right?
So, with such a high reliance on imported products, can the bee farmers meet local demand?
We import, I think it was 330,000 pounds of honey in a year, right? So we have a ways to go. I mean, obviously that would be the ultimate target. If we can do that, as I say, what we will be doing is going as far as possible to substituting what is coming in from overseas. You know, so if our limit is that we may only be able to substitute 80% of the honey, 50% of the honey, we would do what best we can to make sure we are producing at our optimal level, right? Again, if we can get a target where we can ultimately substitute for all imported honey, that would be great. But we are still a ways off from determining whether that is the case or not.
It seems the local beekeeping industry still has some way to go before it starts to fully exploit the vastly growing international market. But steps are being made, and if all goes well, we may soon be known as the land of honey.